No, we haven't found any on this 44-acre piece. Just the two 12-acre parcels.
But it is still zoned
It's
residential.
still zoned residential.
Why would a quarry want residential land? What is the point of having a residential land owned by quarry?
Well, they purchased this, and, well, here's where it goes. In 1981, they purchased 5 acres. In 1985, they purchased another 12 acres. In 1989, they came in to rezone those two 12-acre parcels to quarry. We did what we're doing now, but unfortunately, we didn't have social media, so we had to do everything door to door, petitions, people knocked on doors, and one of the residents that lived in a home here, Kent Robinson, he hired an attorney, Thomas Reed, who used to be a judge, and he was also the town attorney, I think, at one time. And Tom is the one who found the restrictions. He brought it to the town's attention that it was restricted, not to be quarried. The town dropped it, and it was never discussed again until now, 30 years later.
Hey, Phil, could you just point out where Bower Park is?
Bower Park is right here.
Okay.
This was all bricks, and Bower Park is right in here.
Off of North Ave?
Yes,
Okay.
and it has an entrance right here off of North Avenue. See it right here?
Okay.
That's all Bower Park. Any other questions on this, Matt?
Just a quick question, if that's already, if you were able to stop it before because it was zone residential, why is it even being brought up now? When they found those things?
I've been asking the board this every meeting since August. We only found out about this in August. We didn't know in June, they did a presentation for these proposed zoning changes. And we was lucky, I got an email from John Sala and said that he heard that the quarry's trying to rezone this property again. This town board doesn't seem to want to honor those restrictions. They're right in the meeting minutes, you know, you think they would honor. These people built these homes, you know, people have put addition on their homes. Never thought that this was a possibility that we're going to ask to rezone 31 acres and bring this thing closer to the hamlet of town, which is just doesn't make sense.
One more question.
There's people now that their quality of life, you know, with the dust, the noise, the vibrations from the blasting,
Water,
Traffic.
water quality, I mean, those are things being looked into. There's different organizations now that have some concerns about the quarry operation, not even taking this into consideration, that there's some other concerns that they have. People are having problems with their wells.
I'm sorry, I just have one more question. The property to the west of North Avenue that Peckham owns, is there any wetlands back there in the residential area?
Yeah, I think we do have a map for that.
There is.
Well,
We have more slides too that I think show
yeah,
that.
one of the things that I wanted to bring up was, we're all asking, okay, how does the town benefit from this? And the only thing we're getting is that the quarry or Peckham Materials agreed to put this land, and a portion that's left here into a conservation easement. It's, the DLC is the organization that would be holding the easement. And what they will do is they will cut out 5-acre parcels, 3 on this 158 acres and 2 on this 101 acres, that they will be able to sell as home sites. But 5 acres is the only area that could be disturbed on each of those, 3 on one and 2 on the other. And the office area would be cut out because the office already exists. The land is zoned 3.5 acre and 2 acre zoning right now. It has a forestry exemption on there that restricts it from being developed for 10 years. And every time you take the tax deduction, that 10 years starts again. It's like almost a $369,000 tax exemption. That's off the assessed value. The property is I'd say at least 40–50% of it is wetlands. There's DEC wetlands up on that area. There's streams that go through here. On the frontage on Saul Point, if everybody knows it, when you go past the Trout and Game Club, there's this great spring creek that runs there. If you want to get to that property, you're going to have to go down a hill and build a bridge. So that frontage is really not accessible. They have little accessibility on North Avenue. The idea that they're trying to sell this is convincing people that we can protect this land and it'll never be developed. Well, the land has built-in protections from what we see, you know, with the wetlands, the steep slopes, the narrow pieces of property on here. And it has zoning. It's zoned for 3.5 acre zoning, and it's zoned for 2 acre zoning. So it's no different than every other piece of land in the town of Pleasant Valley. If you're gonna put a restriction on this one, easement, then what about all the other land that's in town of Pleasant Valley? So where does it hold water? To me, it doesn't. Maybe you'll see it differently. But the residents need to know, is this worth getting an easement on that property? Because that's the way it's being presented to the public.
So if the land goes into easements, how much taxes will the town be out?
Well, they said there won't be any reduction in taxes. Right now, just to give you an example, the 101 acres of land, it has a forestry exemption, it has an ag district exemption. The land's assessed for about 700,000, 800,000. By the time you take off the forestry exemption and then take off the 60,000 for the ag district, they're paying an assessed value on less than $300,000.
So they're paying less taxes than we are for a 2 acre lot?
Yes.
Yes.
101 acres with a house on it.
That's the other thing that people don't realize, they're not paying that much money in taxes.
town board to begin with?
The other piece of property, this one up here, it's got the office on there, and that's got an ag district on it also, but that's got a lot of wetlands.
So I think the office is a little higher, isn't the office on Gloria, way up on the
Up
top?
here.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now, give you an example, the quarry, now that they've taken this 68 acres, and there were lot lines here, but somehow they went into the town and had the lines merged, where you don't see these separations now with the residential and the quarry zone. So I brought this up at the last meeting, that how do you merge properties when they're zoned differently? You merge 68 acres of residential with 158 acres of quarry zone. So they're looking into that. The colored maps, the zoning maps, you can see the difference, but still, we need this line back. And the 2 12-acre parcels disappeared. Maybe in view, but they don't disappear from the restrictions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You say restrictions on that property, are those legal restrictions or just a chat with the town board saying, oh, right, this is a restriction on it, yeah, we'll keep that, but.
That's condition of the lot line rearrangement that was signed by the planning board and by the town, and was filed on a map with the Dutchess County Clerk's office. And it held up 30 years ago.
Right, but sometimes, you know, one town board will say one thing, you get a new town board, they can change everything.
But, you know,
I've seen it done more than once in the town.
yeah, but like I said, it's, you know, there's.
That's why we're here.
Have you gone to any legal entity to see if
The
that
legality of
does
it, yeah.
have a
We've
legal
been
statement?
advised that we have strong credentials and the restrictions are very strong,
Okay.
yes.
Do you want to do the next slide?
Before you change it,
One other thing, the quarry right now is 198 acres, just about 200 acres. They're assessed for $2.7 million. Herb Reynolds Plaza, the
Dollar General, you know,
Key, I think it's called Key Plaza,
Yep.
is 3.7 acres, that's assessed for $2.7 million. Herb Reynolds paying as much taxes as the entire quarry with all the equipment, the crushers, the silos, the asphalt, the ready mix. The thing is, the equipment that's in the quarry zone doesn't get assessed by the town. It's numbers that are set with the state of New York. They tell them how much they can assess that property for. But just an example, 3.7 acres, a plaza that's not hurting anybody, doesn't affect everybody's daily life, and you got a quarry that's assessed for the same thing, 2.7 and 2.7. It's just a number.
Phil, the property up where Arborea Road is, all the way towards the top, is that a third parcel on that side of the road?
No.
In other words, you were pointing before to these.
Up by the
Yeah,
bar
that's
on
where
Oreo,
you
the
were
office.
pointing- you were
I
pointing-
can't reach it, I'm short.
I think you were pointing to this one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And then is that
This
the
is,
third?
that's the one, that little lollipop, That's the office.
That's the office.
I need a
Right.
stool.
Way up high, right?
Yep, yeah.
Underneath the S.
You ain't gonna reach it.
I'll pull this down, but it still won't work.
Won't work.
But that's the 158 acres, this is the 101 acres. Any more questions on this?
I have a question about, so in the state of New York, since water is something that we all have to share, who gives the quarry the right to drain our wells or pollute the water?
You know, we're on the phone, we're sending emails to the DEC daily. I mean, there's a number of us, every time we have a complaint, we send it to them. The DEC, from what they told me, they have over 500 mines that they monitor in New York State. This is the closest to a town, that's what they told me, because it's been here so long. Supposedly, there's monitoring wells on this site that are supposed to monitor the groundwater level. They have sensors in them. If the water table goes down, they're notified. I've seen a submittal that the quarry made to the town saying they have 19 monitoring wells. In the DEC permit, on one page, it's a whole page of the water monitoring they have to do. The discharge, the flow. I foiled that from the DEC. They sent me they waited to 25 days, sent me a reply back saying we have no records.
What?
Yeah.
So I just made the request again, after talking to their FOIL administrator, and I sent it to the regional director of Region 3. I said, how can you not have records? There's a whole page of water monitoring. So now they're looking. And those records are supposed to go to the town of Pleasant Valley every December for the whole year on the discharge and the monitoring. And when the quarry went below bench 100, you know, the 100 mark, that's not minus 100. They were supposed to get another set of approvals because they have to look at the well monitoring to see if they're affecting the water table. And the quarry is over an aquifer. There's an aquifer plan we can show you this. This directly sits right on top of it.
Just out of curiosity, have you contacted the town to see if they have the reports that they're supposed to be getting?
I've
every
asked for
year?
some other reports. They don't know what I'm talking about.
They're not keeping up with it.
Hey, Phil, just as another comment, the same way the quarry assessment is developed by New York State, the assessment on the power plant down on Niagara Road there is also established by New York State.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's 44 million, that power plant. $44 million assessment.
You know, give you an example. We looked up Milestone Plaza. That's assessed for $5.7 million.
The Acme Plaza.
The Acme Plaza. And Reynolds is 2.7 and the quarry's 2.7. The question you have to ask yourself is, as residents, how is this going to affect our homes? Is it going to drop our values more? Is it going to be a benefit to the town, a detriment? You have to ask those questions. You know, what benefit is this to the town to bring this quarry 31 acres closer so we can put 2 pieces of land in a conservation easement, but still, the rest of the town's not in a conservation easement. And then the other thing that was said, that they can take and gravel mine this piece of property. If you look at our town zoning, any piece of residential land in town can be gravel mined. If you take out more than 750 yards or 1,000 tons in 1 year, you have to get a DEC permit. Albrecht mines his property. There's several places that mine it and stay underneath the 750. But it's true of any residential piece of property. So if we're going to protect this piece, what about all the other pieces in town?
Phil, can I add to Seymour's question real quick? You asked what gives the quarry the right to do this? We're giving them the right. Because right now, there's only a small handful of people that are making the phone calls, sending the emails, and it's probably maybe less than 0.5% of the people in Pleasant Valley. So it's very important, and I'm glad you're all here, because if each one of us tells 10 people about the meetings and start getting more people involved, or at least to sign up with this so that they're getting the information, and we give them an easy way to send emails to DEC and to whatever. We don't know those answers yet, but that's what we gotta do. We've gotta get the power of the people involved here to say, where the hell are those records that they're supposed to be filing in the town every, how often, month, a week?
It
or-
says on here, every December, there has to be a full year's report on both awards.
So, that's criminal right there, that's not being done.
Is
But
there
whether or
anybody
not
on the
it's
town
true
board that supports what we're all here for?
is-
We have asked the town board members point blank, and nobody will commit.
Is there anybody who's running who will support what
Yeah, I
we're
was
doing
thinking,
here?
this is an
Because
election
election is
year.
coming up.
I- You know, this is the best thing to do, is call the people running, call the people on the board, and ask them where they stand. See if you can get a commitment out of them, because not even the candidates are committing.
Nobody's committing on this.
Well, they're sitting back and letting this board take all the heat, I think, at this point.
Well, wait a minute, Phil, we plan on getting these people at a meeting like this before election day?
Monday, Monday, this coming Monday, the quarry's gonna be presenting this. They're gonna have their blasting company there, from what I was told, and they're going to try to sell this package to the town, to the residents.
That's not what the meeting's for, Phil.
And then
That's
again,
not what the meeting on Monday is for. It is not the sales pitch to sell this.
well, what are they gonna do there then?
It's to do exactly what you're doing here.
It's an information
It's an
session. We'll call it an
information-
information
What
session.
These are the questions that were submitted to the quarry. And hopefully on Monday, there'll be answers. It's not a sales pitch. It is to discuss just like you're discussing here.
Okay,
It really is. Those are the, I want you to read the questions
here.
and share them with them.
You wanna read them? You know, we've been going through this for 30-plus years.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Phil? Hold 1 second, what'd you say, Phil?
We have been listening to the quarry for 30.
I know you have. I've been to meetings
And
I'll read-
for 20-something years. I've seen
I'll
you
read the
there.
questions at the end,
Thank
is that
you.
when, during the questions come, so everybody knows what questions have been already proposed to
that'll
the
be good.
quarry. We'll read these at the
We'd
end.
like to know what the
I've seen you do
questions
this, and I feel for you.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know enough about everything. That's why I'm here.
are.
But I've seen you for 25 years at those
Believe
meetings.
me, this is the last
25
place
years.
this is the last place I wanna be. But you know something? We've been trying.
But do not sell the meeting on Monday as a sales pitch.
I'm
It's
sorry,
not.
who are you?
My name is Sandra Larkin.
You're just a resident, you're
I am
not.
just a
Okay.
resident.
Okay, I'm
She's on
just
the
curious,
zoning.
because
I
you're
am not,
speaking.
You're on the
I am
zoning
not,
committee?
nope, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Because no one understands.
Do you want to
that.
go on to the next slide just to keep this moving?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we'll read the questions so everybody knows what will be posed at
The
the
other
meeting, and
thing
then
that-
please come with your own questions to that meeting as
Yes.
well.
The other thing you might wanna drive home with your elected officials is, we've been asking them to enforce the zoning regulations. The zoning regulations are clear. It says noise, dust, odors, and vibrations are not supposed to emit beyond the quarry limits. If they would enforce those, none of these residents around here would have a complaint, and I wouldn't be up here. That's all we're asking, but nobody's done it for 30 years. Why? That's what you should be asking also.
Oh, I have asked that. I've
Yeah.
heard your complaints. I don't
Yeah.
know enough about the subject matter.
It's
Like I
our
said, it's not
water.
here. Yeah.
The main thing is
I
our
can't
water.
understand how we have government agencies like the DEC that are not doing their job in regulating this.
The problem is that DEC
I
will
mean,
tell
the
you,
problem's so big.
they don't have the manpower to go out and do it, and they're pro-mining, the DEC.
Okay, so I believe the
I'll try
buffer,
the next,
the buffer slide
no,
is-
just try the next one with the picture of the whole mine, so I can show
We
them.
got it.
That was, yeah.
This is the quarry pit. I think this is about a year old, this picture. Somebody took it with a drone. I found it online. But this is looking down North Avenue. This is up where the plant is, where the blacktop and concrete plant is. That hill, that's the 31 acres they want to rezone. So they will clear cut that hill and take it down to a 400-foot depth, because that's the approval they have, is to go 400 feet deep. Those benches are each about 50 feet. This is bench 5 right now. And this is below the water table, I think by 40 feet. And once they clear cut the top of that hill, because that's where they'll start. They'll start blasting that first, then they'll make a shelf, come over again, and that'll just continue. You lose all that buffer, you'll lose all the sound barrier, the filtering, and that's 31 acres closer to town. This is the Wappingers Creek side, that's North Avenue. Anybody have a question on this? Just give you a good view of it.
How
Okay.
old is that picture?
A year old.
I think it's about a year old.
Okay.
This is somebody's handing this out to people, some people on like Cannon Drive are receiving this. This is, someone's bringing it door to door. The proposal that the DLC is making for the conservation easement. I know they've been to Cannon Drive knocking on some houses. The quarry's office is on the backside of Cannon Drive. It's a very steep slope. There's nothing gonna happen on that property. But I think they're trying to convince the residents that the conservation easements will be good for them.
I think they were just trying to share information.
This, I can reach this one. This is the 158 acres. You see the wetlands that goes through here? That's at least 30, 40 acres. You have to put once the wetlands are delineated by an engineer and they establish where the line ends, then there's a minimum of a 100-foot buffer before you can do any construction or anything. This is the Great Spring Creek. This is Salt Point Turnpike. This is the Great Spring Creek. You'll see the Trout and Game Club is down here. Anything you do here, you'd have to build a bridge across the creek. This is another creek. Wetlands runs in here. So the land has a lot of built-in restrictions, is what I'm trying to say. The office is here. From what I understand, they're making 3 5-acre sites here and 2 5-acre sites on this piece. This is the road that crosses North Avenue and Salt Point Road.
That's a Borea Road, right?
Yeah.
Memorial Road.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so if I understand you correctly, that whether they put it into an easement or not, they would still be allowed to build these houses?
Yes,
Okay,
but it's
so-
gonna be restricted. So what I was told was, they'll be able to disturb 5 acres. They'll break it up into 3 parcels, say 50 acres, 40 acres, whatever,
Okay.
but you're only allowed to disturb 5 acres of
But
it.
that's in the
So in other
proposed
wo-
change.
In the proposed, if it goes into the DLC.
But if they don't do the proposed change, how do you build a house there? Can they build a house there now?
Well, it's gonna be difficult because you got so many wetlands. I mean, the Boreal Road, you could probably build in here, here's where the office is, and in here you got some buildable area. But the question is, this is 2-acre zoning, that's 3.5 acre zoning. What I would say is if you wanna protect that land, change it all to 10-acre zoning. And it's done with, and we're not giving up anything.
But that's not forever.
10-acre, well, zoning,
If you change it to 10 acres, there can come a new board that comes along next month, the year after, and change it
but
to
that
1
can
acre.
happen with any
There could
piece
be
of
another
property in the
board that
town of
comes
Pleasant Valley, somebody can get a zoning change. Any
But
piece
an
of land
easement
in town.
is forever, just pointing
Exactly,
that out.
but
It is
what are you gonna do with the
forever.
rest of the town?
Forever.
The rest of the town is open.
Okay, I'm just.
We can't put the whole town in the conservation easement.
Okay.
No, we're not gonna we don't wanna lose our tax money either.
$33,000, whatever they say.
Suzanne,
The gentleman said, can you put houses there now, without the change and without the conservation easement? The answer, right now, is no, because the 2 parcels, the parcels that has Arboreal Road, the 2 parcels that are proposed for conservation easement are have lands that are in a tax forestry program. And the owner, currently Peckham Industries, gets a tax abatement from this DEC forestry program. And, for every year that the landowner agrees to be in the program, the landowner commits for the next 10 years not to disturb the land. Just to inform you, the entire parcel of each of the entire parcel is not restricted. Around 100 acres is restricted on one of the parcels, and if memory serves me, I think 50 some odd acres are restricted on the other parcel. So the current land forestry program commitment goes to the year 2032. If the landowner violates the agreement, then there's a stiff tax penalty to the landowner. So right now, and it has been actually it seems as though the Arboreal company started putting those parcels in the forestry tax abatement program, and the current owner, Peckham, is continuing in the forestry tax abatement program. So there's some protection. Your point is well taken. It's not forever. But there is protection, and it has been ongoing for quite some time. That's all.
The other thing, from what I understand, if this land did go into the conservation easement, right now, Arboreal Road is a private road, so it has to be maintained by Peckham. If this was to go into an easement, this would end up being a town road, so it's a road we're gonna have to maintain. It has a blind spot on it, so I'm sure somebody's gonna have to rebuild a section of it to make it legal, because the town wouldn't accept it the way it is. But that is a consequence. If this thing did go into an easement, we'd have to take that over as a town road.
Good to know.
Why would it become a town road? It's still Peckham's land.
Because that's what I was told by a planning board official.
I would check with someone else on that, because that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know the answer, but that doesn't make sense. It's still Peckham's land.
Well,
Just because it's
yeah,
an
but they're gonna
easement,
sell off
Peckham's
the,
still-
they're gonna sell off the 5-acre parcels plus the additional acreage.
That they would have to do. They would have to make that a town road, because that's the only way you
If
get.
they actually built houses on it, yeah, but prior to that, if they didn't do anything with the land, that's still their land?
No,
Once the
still have to
conservation
take care of
area
it
goes on,
sounds like if they get the easement thing, that it would have to become a town road, because part of the agreement is we will have residential houses there.
That's
So,
Exactly.
to lay the ground first, you have to make it a public road, because a
No,
contractor.
that sounds a little weird to me, that's all.
It's a good question for
I was told
Monday.
by the-
Yeah, that is definitely a question of Monday, 'cause that does not make sense.
It would have to be up to the town.
Next slide.
That doesn't make sense.
This is the zoning map, and where I was said the lines were erased and merged, it still shows it at least colored that this is residential and this is the quarry zone. So, just, people have to understand, because it's owned by the quarry doesn't mean it's quarry zoned. The only thing that's quarry zoned is right now where they are, right up to the edge. They can't go any further.
Did you have anything about the water?
This is the aquatic protection zone. You can see the quarry is right in the middle of the aquifer that runs through town, right here. And as they get deeper, that's a concern, and that's where the DEC has to look at those monitoring wells to see if they are affecting the groundwater. But the wetlands, the aquifer is right through here.
Next slide.
The other thing that happens here, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just have a question. I mean, if they want to expand this, don't they have to do some kind of study to see the damage that it's going to do on the surrounding houses? That would just make sense. I mean,
I brought that up, and it's a contentious answer that I wish they would stop giving residents. Every time a resident says, you know, I'm losing the value of my home, I brought it up to an individual not too long ago. I said, those 3 homes that were built within the last 6-7 years, you're gonna destroy those homes. You might as well just move out of them. I was told that they knew the quarry was there when they bought it. And those people didn't realize zoning wasn't gonna be enforced, and those people didn't realize that they were gonna ask to rezone the
to
property
change
behind
the
it.
zoning, shouldn't they have to do some kind of testing to see what the change in the zoning is going to do to the surroundings?
Well, what it is, they'll do a
There is a
seeker,
process.
they'll do a seeker,
Yeah.
seeker review. But
Has
again,
anything been done? Has that been done yet?
no. When they go in for the rezoning, they'd have to do a seeker, but, you know, things get by. I don't expect to see the DEC stop this. DEC is pro-mining. I mean,
Phil,
that's their job.
who pays for the secret review, or is that free?
Excuse me?
Who pays for the secret review?
Well, the town, all this zoning initiative that's going on, it all has to have a seeker review that gets submitted. But the biggest thing that I see here that's gonna be a cost to the residents, we have a comprehensive plan that took from '06 to '09 to complete. Cost thousands of dollars, it's hundreds of pages, and it clearly states in the comprehensive plan that we have 1 quarry, and we plan to limit it to the quarry district. So that means the comprehensive plan has to be changed. And they're already talking about forming a committee to start rewriting the comprehensive plan. See the first paragraph up there? And these are all the restrictions that they're supposed to be enforcing on the quarry. The noise, the dust, all out, anything that exceeds outside the quarry limits is supposed to be enforced. This,
Are they appealing, are they following these now, these setbacks? No, right?
Not at all.
Hang on a second, Phil. go back to that seeker thing about them putting those silos in where the county, because no one knows about that.
Well, what happened in 18, they put 3 additional silos in. The silos is where they store the asphalt. If you're in the construction business, you know when you go there to buy asphalt, you drive underneath the silo, they open the chute, it drops it into your truck, and you take off. They added 3 additional silos, and then what they did is they changed the drum plant to saying it was gonna be more efficient and quieter, but in turn, what it does, it puts out more product faster. So now, I sent a letter to the town, I was out of town at the time, and I said, you know, that needs a secret review. It's an addition, you're gonna be creating more truck traffic, you know, more noise, more whatever it costs to take care of these 3 extra silos. Dutchess County Planning sent a letter to the town saying this is an addition and it should have a secret review, a truck study, a traffic study. What they did is they allowed it to slip through what they call an uncoordinated secret review, and no studies were done. So the residents lost. They also gave them a variance on the setback, because all the equipment in the quarry, if you look at the permit, has to be a minimum of 500 feet from the property line. They let them put this within, was it 50 feet of the property line?
Yeah, 50 foot.
They also got a variance of 29 or 39 feet because it exceeded the height limits. They gave them a variance for the height, and now the residents in that area are suffering with more noise than they ever had before. And we hear it where we are. On a cooler day, you know, the noise travels a little bit more, and it doesn't matter where you are, you'll get some of it, but the.
Peach Road gets it too. Peach Road, it's all the way over to Peach Road.
Exactly.
You can hear it across from Martin Road, that far on North Avenue, and my house shakes.
Yeah, people don't understand.
That far down.
All the way down North Avenue, when they blast, the homes shake. And the DEC said to me today, he sent the thing back saying it was in the limits. I said, well, if it's in the limits, you need to change the way you meter it. Put the meter in people's homes. Do a pre-blast survey. That's something you guys might want to think about when the quarry's sitting here on Monday. Ask them to do a pre-blast survey. Every time you go to do a construction job and you've got a blast in any area, they make you do a pre-blast survey. You have to have an engineer, he comes in, he videotapes your entire home, outside and in, inside and out. Any cracks are visible. If you get new damage, then they know it's their problem. I've asked this quarry to do a pre-blast survey for years, they just will not do it.
How about the dust, the lead in the dust? High levels of lead in the dust.
John's had a study done one time by an engineer.
Yeah,
and
they
picked
threw
up-
it out to the town, of course they threw it out. The lead levels were way over the limit, way over. And they threw it out, they put meters all over my house. And the town threw it out because I touched one of the meters. Yup.
And your house was there before the
And every
quarry.
time we call the DEC, they shut right down. We go on my porch and call them. And they shut right down when we call
Is
the
the
DEC.
expansion to
The state
increase
that comes over
productivity or because they're running out
Oh,
of room to mine?
They can't sell much lower.
It's one of the questions that I think is probably on your sheet. Will this increase productivity? Nobody can answer that, because if the economy is really strong, then they're gonna blast more, they're gonna take more product out. This quarry last year blasted 66 times, they blast 11 months a year. The only month we get off is January. And yes, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I'll do it for another 25 years. Because Dutchess Quarry,
But it seems like you
never,
have.
Dutchess Quarry wasn't a great neighbor, but Peckham, since they took it over, there's trucks going in and out of that place, hauling to the other plant, and Pleasant Valley residents are suffering with all the activity that's going on here and the stuff that's being carted to their other plants. And it's not fair to us. And now you want to give them another 31 acres to mine, 400 feet deep? Doesn't make sense.
Phil, just one thing that I'd like to make everyone know. What's happening and how this all came about, it was just a conversation. Nothing has happened.
We understand that.
Okay, no, I don't know if everybody understands.
But if we didn't get involved, it would've went through.
What's that?
It would've went through if we didn't get involved.
No, it was nowhere near that, it was nowhere near that.
Well, that's why we're here tonight, and we can
That's
all
why we're
show
here
up on
tonight.
October
But
21st.
I really wanna just make that clear. I know.
Well, what happened was, we found out about this in August, but this presentation for the rezoning was in June. I got an email from somebody telling me that quarry's trying to expand again, and I heard it from a very reliable source again, that the planning board already approved this, was sending it to the town for their approval. The town would have set up a public hearing, Once the public
That did
hearing
not,
about
that
it.
was not up to that point at all.
Okay.
That's, I wanna make that really clear.
I have a question, if maybe you
don't
can,
do that if you're not on the
well,
board.
that's okay, listen.
I attend meetings and I do.
She's well informed and she's a source of information and that's all that matters. Is the meeting on October 21st technically a public hearing or is it just an information
No, it's
session?
information.
It's just an information session, so that's important to note too because there's different rules, I believe, for information sessions and for public hearings. For example, in public hearings, I believe they can limit the time you speak. Look online. I know some people have posted some links. I'll try to put some links in with this presentation, which I'll email out to you guys. So reference that just so you're well prepared on Monday if you do plan to speak, so you know your legal rights. Next slide.
So now, again, the comprehensive plan, we brought that up at the last meeting, that this is in direct conflict with your comprehensive plan, and now they're talking about we're gonna have to revise it.
I just want to suggest strongly, because I didn't realize anything about this comprehensive plan. I've lived in Pleasant Valley all my life, didn't really pay too much attention. I live on Creek Road, right across the creek from where they potentially will be mining or blasting, whatever the hell they're going to be doing. That's why I'm so passionate about this. I would advise everyone, if you can, to go in and read the part about quarrying and how it affects the town. This is why, right in here, why this thing was done, to protect the township, the residents, the peace and quiet, the farming, water, agriculture,
Maintain
whatever.
rural character.
The whole rural character.
This is in
Now,
direct conflict with their comprehensive plan.
and the thing of it is, all of these things, I don't care what anybody says, there's a lot being done behind closed doors. We have verification of it, they're going ahead and doing it anyway, and then they're telling you something entirely different.
Exactly.
Even our own candidates are Mr. Szynski, who I am fond of, but he is in favor of the quarry. He said, don't worry, we're gonna get a nice park, you know, from the quarry, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, people have to know what this comprehensive plan does. And Rebecca Seaman and Michael Gordon, who is my neighbor, he was on the zoning board back then, and she was on the planning board, both were highly praised for their work on this comprehensive plan. Now, all of a sudden, she wants to go and change the whole damn thing.
She does not
because-
want to do that, and I really.
Yeah, she
this
does.
is-
Yes, she does.
Excuse, this is not the place for that. It's not the place.
Yeah.
This is not the place for that.
Okay. We're just having a conversation. Can you present your opinions a little objectively, I guess?
No,
We're trying to be,
I'm tired of, you know, this bullshit going around that everybody is so, oh my God, don't say anything about, you know, what's going on.
we do want to be able to have an open conversation.
Oh,
And you
absolutely.
are being respectful. I will acknowledge that.
I don't mean to disrespect anybody. If I am, if I come across that way, I apologize. But this hits my home and a lot of other homes that are sitting right here. And they're going ahead, they're forging ahead, and don't tell me that this isn't all planned out. Because you know politics, you know the town board, and you know the BS that goes on with it.
And I think the bigger issue that we're getting down to with your statement is that we are, again, back to the transparency issue. If there were minutes on the website, if we could see the planning as it was happening, if we had records of the discussions that were taking place, if they are indeed taking place at these meetings, then we wouldn't feel like so much was happening behind closed doors. So again, that's why we're here this evening, yes.
The damn,
The damn minutes.
the damn minutes. Get it out there so
We hear
don't
you.
have anything to reference.
We have talked to the town clerk and she,
So, as you know, one time I was on the town board, years ago. So I think it would be important too, in looking at the comprehensive plan and this is the zoning code. That's chapter 98, chapter 45, right? Is,
Laura?
Oh,
you put
sorry.
the comprehensive.
no,
that's it.
That's it.
It would be important to look in there about the code enforcement officer, who's supposed to be the recognized person to
Yes.
enforce that stuff.
yes,
We
that's
can't
the
get
following
anyone on the
section.
site. How many residents here have asked the zoning guy to go out to the site? They won't get up.
There is somebody with that job though, that's important, that's a
Of
good
course
point, because
there is.
it's the
And
next
they have-
section in this.
They have job descriptions,
Yes.
they have reporting issues, they can write summonses that have to be adjudicated in town court, outside of the town board. It's almost like being a police officer to some degree, where the town board really doesn't have significant oversight on the actions of the code enforcement officer.
So that might be another good question for Monday night. Who is that person and what have they been doing with their time?
Now, and the other thing, you would know this. If you went to our surrounding towns, and if I walked into town of Poughkeepsie right now, tomorrow, and said, I want to request a zoning change, who do I speak to? They're going to tell me to fill out an application, and they'll put it on the agenda, and you'll go in front of the planning board.
Well,
This was never done that way.
so what, and you're in that genre of work, at one time you were. So a lot of times, what happens throughout is, if you want to do a project, I mean, I work for Arnold Moving and Storage, we were doing a project up in Saratoga County, you have a pre-meeting or an informational meeting with the planning, you know, the building inspector, the code enforcement officer saying, we own this property, this is what we're looking to do, we're gonna bring the engineer in and do all that, and you lay that groundwork,
And
that's
the next step is to put an
commonplace.
application in.
Absolutely.
But it would be directly against our comprehensive plan, so
Well,
it would
they're
have
not
to
up
get
to that
rejected.
part.
and
They're
sent
not up
back.
to the application part, they're only up to that chapter.
They're in, my observation, and again, I'm not involved in this, I'm here for the information, it's the first time I've been able to get to a meeting, because of other conflicts, I think it's good. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, I was on the town board for 7 years, and the county legislature for the last 6. In that entire time, of the 7 years I was on the town board, there was never this many people in the room except the comprehensive plan, or when we were looking to do something with the sign ordinance. Other than that, or rental park, other than that, you're meeting to 2 or 3 people.
And 30 years ago, when we stopped this expansion, it was full that time.
Of course, but yeah, so this is great, and it's perfect for doing the homework. I cheer that.
Anybody else have questions on the comprehensive plan? The comprehensive plan is the town's master plan. It's to guide their growth for the next sometimes 20, 25 years. And it's a state law requirement that the town has to create a comprehensive plan, because that's what forms your zoning code.
Can you read it online?
Yes, it is available on the website.
Oh,
And
yes,
if you
go
sign
ahead.
up, if you sign up for our mailing list, I'm gonna do a follow-up to this meeting, and I'm gonna include the recommended reading links again that we had sent out originally. So there's a sign-up list, John's gonna come around with it. Just, if you're not already on it, you can sign up for that.
They'll just explain the difference between the comprehensive plan and the zoning code.
Oh, here, perfect.
Well,
This is
the
it.
zoning code, the comprehensive plan, the zoning code starts out with the same first paragraph.
Right, but a zoning code, from my understanding, you tell me if I'm wrong, the zoning code, that's it, that's the way it should be done. Where a comprehensive plan is, hey guys, you should do it this way.
Right, but if you read the comprehensive plan and the zoning on a quarry, it's page for page.
I know that,
Right.
but do explain that there's 2 different things.
Right,
A
the
plan is a
comprehensive
plan,
plan
is
is
a
a
guidance,
guide for
where
how
a
the town
code,
should grow.
where a code is how you should be doing it.
Exactly.
If it says the
My
same thing, what does it
understanding
matter?
It does matter.
is that the comprehensive plan outlines the master plan of how the land is to be used.
Preserved.
After that is passed, it is imperative that the zoning ordinance and codification be written to implement the comprehensive plan.
Exactly.
So the zoning code implements our comprehensive plan.
Actually, when the codification was done, because I was on the town board at that time, the zoning code was a part of the codification plan. That's when it was a secret requirement at that time for the entire project. You probably remember that, Phil?
Yes.
You and your husband probably remember that? You were there? Suzanne, you probably remember that? So they go together, they unilock.
Exactly.
But one is the one you want to follow as the
The
law,
zoning
right?
code.
Well, the zoning
Right, the
code,
code is.
That's the law.
That's what I'm
Suzanne,
saying,
you're
just
familiar.
try to, just say that one is actually the law. What you're showing is the law, where the plan is just,
it's the same thing.
it's the same, it's
If you actually read this, right, it says that too often the zoning code and subdivision regulations take the place of the town's comprehensive plan. This is taken right from our town's comprehensive plan. So I think it's putting the comprehensive plan as the guiding factor. They do, they're intertwined, absolutely.
The comprehensive plan is more important.
I mean, they're both important.
Just explain it, I thought what you just said was very good, that it implements.
You have to have, well, New York State requires that every town have a comprehensive plan.
Okay.
That's my understanding. And then once you have a comprehensive plan, the town has to have written zoning law to implement the comprehensive plan.
Exactly. That's why you see there's so much the same wording in both. Suzanne, you want to add
No,
anything?
Sue is fine.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on from the zoning regulations?
Can we go back to the zoning regulations? Or- we didn't talk about that.
Sorry, okay.
Hey Phil, I like A, about the dust and the noise. How many people drove by that place and got bombarded with dust? Yeah, thank you, but they say, Peckham says, there's no dust coming out of the place.
I mean, if everybody wants to go online and just look at the zoning code, these are all the things that we're asking our officials to enforce, and we just can't get any support.
Section 98-25A2. Yeah. Okay, and the hours? Are you kidding me? Okay, then why are trucks speeding up North Avenue at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to the quarry?
They are.
Speeding. They're flying. The quarry should pay the sheriff's department to do extra, checks. Yes, because the going to the sheriff's department because they can't afford it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the question, just for the audio for the people who are going to watch this afterwards.
Isn't there a state agency that oversees all this that we could contact? Or, I mean, I can't believe that everything lies in the hands of these local people and there's no state organization that.
I've looked into laws to see how you can force a town to enforce their zoning. I don't find anything to support it.
Look, when it comes to enforcement, it's really done at a local level. The state, the DEC, has a global perspective. It's the local officials who have to enforce the regs if they're going to be enforced.
Okay, but if I go and I dump, let's say, all these chemicals in the bottom of this creek, which is in my backyard, isn't the EPA gonna come after me?
Well, if
So they'll have to
the first complaint would go to your local enforcement officer, and then from there it will go to the EPA.
So it's up to that local enforcement officer
Well,
to send it up?
that's your first person to contact. I mean, you can, I suppose you can call the EPA, but we're talking about the quarry dust and quarry noise and quarry this. We have an enforcement office. And that's where people should go. But the point of this meeting, let me just go back to the point, is the quarry expansion, And I heard people talking about, a secret review or a secret, the State Environmental Quality Review Act has certain, when a action comes under review, and there's a form or a questionnaire, is it going to have aesthetic implications, or noise or dust, or all those other things? And then the question is, if the answer is yes, then the applicant or the lead agency will have to say, well, the applicant will do such and such to mitigate the noise. The applicant will do such and such to mitigate the dust. And there are some environmental actions or that can't be mitigated. And then, so the applicant will be asked, well, can you change your plan to do something else? Sometimes they can't. Now, things get approved, conditioned on what the applicant says the applicant can do. But then it's a question of, and we're hearing this now by your complaints, what if the applicant doesn't do what the applicant is supposed to do? Someone local should be there to enforce the agreement. What we're talking about tonight is whether it's worth it to the town of Pleasant Valley for the quarry to expand land southward, right next to the hamlet, in exchange for certain quarry-owned lands to be held in a conservation easement by the Dutchess Land Conservancy, so that those residential lands won't be developed for residential use. That's the question. Is it a good exchange?
No.
And that's why we're saying if those lands are in the conservation easement, is it worth it to the people who depended on zoning all these years and trusted zoning to protect them from quarry intrusions that the quarry now wants, and at least some people think they should have? That's the question. So the difference, why workshops like this one are important, is that in discussions like this, ordinary people like us can have a conversation and improve or discard the proposal and inform our town leaders who have the full power to implement this by a change in zoning. They have the full power to do it. Or will they drop it? Now, a seeker review doesn't change the plan. To wait till the public hearing and the seeker review is late in the game, because by then the plan is well on its way to being implemented. So when, Sue and I started to request workshops, guided workshops being formed, and I think Don was going to be a table leader for those workshops, to make it open to everybody.
Yep.
So that people who are residents, who value the town, who value the rural quality of the town, and who value business, can discuss whether this is good in the long run, or whether we should start thinking about when the quarry has to end. Quarries don't last forever. And what else was I going to say? Oh yes, and if the quarry ends, and the town can start refocusing on the Pleasant Valley hamlet and making that a better place, and a place that we're proud of, that's where the town officials should put their energies, and that's where we can put our energies. But that's why we're here, to
And we're all neighbors too, Suzanne.
that's right, to have an unofficial workshop and to present this to our leaders who have the power to change the zoning code.
That's the problem.
Well, but although they have the power, all leaders should be aware and should listen to what residents have to say. So we're forming a group. Do you want to say something?
No, I think that's great. Not only do they have the power, they also have the responsibility to hear from everyone. And I think that, again, this is great, and I applaud it.
I have a question. If the town doesn't listen to the residents and goes ahead and approves the zoning changes, can we, as a group, sue the town?
Well, yeah,
Or
you can.
not complying with
There's a code in New York State law, and it's called an Article 78 proceeding, where you can file suit against the decision that a town agency makes, whether it's the town board, the planning board, or the zoning board, or some other recognized governmental agency.
You need a lawyer to do that?
It's probably, yeah, that's probably advisable.
Yeah.
And if I could just,
Sure.
and it's better not to sue.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
I'm just
It's better to arrive at a conclusion by participation and influencing the people we elect.
I just want to be prepared for worst case scenario. Don't have any recourse.
I'm sorry.
Hold on, and on that note, if we did get to that point where we did have to go to forces of the law and whatnot, again, the more people we have involved, if we have, there's over 10,000 residents in Pleasant Valley at this point, I'm pretty sure. Because there was 9,000 when I moved here almost 30 years
Close to-
ago.
We'll know at the next census.
Yeah, right, but I'm pretty sure it's high up there.
Yeah.
You know, if we have even 1,000 people involved, it'll be a lot cheaper to do that. And I'm sure we can get a lot more than that, because there's plenty of residents that are being affected by all this. Because the traffic spreads way beyond Pleasant Valley. So.
I have a question. Could this ever be brought up to a referendum to have people of Pleasant Valley vote in?
That's my question.
That would be the way to go.
That would be the way to go. I mean, the town board is there, and then the town board is like,
Well, that's the question we'll bring up Monday.
That'd be a good question.
That's
If
a
it's
good Monday
subject to a
question.
Permissive or mandatory referendum, I don't believe so.
The town board did, I believe.
No, there was public hearings, there was a secret review, there was not a referendum on the comprehensive.
They work with engineers.
But there was one for Riddle Park.
That is a part, that was primarily related because there was a site plan, it was gonna involve site plan and the spending of money, the spending of town money. I mean, I could research it for y'all and let you know, but
For
off
the
the top of my
gentleman,
head, I don't know.
you sit on the county legislature, correct?
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about this quarry expansion?
Well, I was coming here from an information perspective. I don't think it should go through the way it's been disseminated here, and I am not in support of it as of
And
now.
you're a Pleasant Valley resident, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you're the first candidate that came out.
Next slide. So,
Only from the fact that there's zero information.
Exactly.
Perspective. Nothing has gone forward yet. I mean, maybe they're gonna come up with a program that says there's an oil well down there. I don't know.
So you're, are you changing your?
No.
we're not giving you any more information.
The quarry, they get a permit from the DEC that's good for, I think, every 3 or 4 years. And they have to provide a reclamation plan, that when they're done mining, they have to restore it. They can't just leave the town with a big hole. This is a vertical look at it. This is the Wabages Creek side. This is North Avenue side. That's the hill that they plan to extend the quarry. So they'd have to create those shelves. As the quarry goes deeper, the hole gets smaller. So their area that they can mine just keeps dropping smaller. From what we can gather, they're at bench 5 right now, but they're below the water table. So as they go deeper, I guess the question I have is, why do they need this expansion if they've said they have 20 more years of stone? Why do they need this expansion? Can you flip to the other drawing? I'll show them the... This is looking down at the reclamation plan, and these are all those shelves. They have to restore all the perimeter with seed and sod. They have to have water access on this side over here for residents, I guess. But this is the reclamation plan, and when they stop mining, what they'll do is stop pumping the water, and this will just come up to that elevation, supposedly. But right now, they're pumping 24 hours a day. As they go deeper, more pumps, and it goes into a retention pond over on this side. But once they stop pumping, supposedly the water comes to that elevation, and we end up with a lake. And you can see, you can probably see it better than me, but there's access there for the residents. Now, this doesn't stop the ready-mix plant or the asphalt plant. It's not in the reclamation, so they can still bring material in, and they can still process and sell asphalt and blacktop, but they won't be mining it any longer if they decide, they can't go any deeper. So that's a reclamation plan, and their permit runs out October of next year.
2020.
But the DEC can reject their permit or stop their permit at any time if there are any violations. But they do have to submit for a new permit by October of next year. Anybody have any questions on the reclamation plan?
So you said the violations, is that what you were talking about on that previous slide? Like those 6 things about the dust?
Well,
and noise? Is that
the
the
DEC,
violation?
we're in a bad spot because the DEC will keep saying, that's your town's obligation to do that. the town will say it's the DEC's requirement. So we get flip-flopped back and forth. We know the town should be enforcing it, we just can't get them to. I mean, that's the next thing we hope to work on after this is all said and done, and just whatever we have to do to get the town to enforce their zoning, and just start making life a little bit more pleasant for the people who are impacted by this operation. Is there another one left? Or? Oh, these are the questions, you want to read those off?
So our questions for consideration are, should the interests of a business be put before the quality of life of our residents? With the future high-density residential development of Wigston Road, which is one of the other zoning proposals, and the potential of increased production at Peckham Quarry, how will an increase in commercial and passenger vehicles affect our roads and traffic conditions? And are these rezoning proposals directly contradicting the Pleasant Valley Comprehensive Plan?
I'd like to say, if you have any more questions, if not, John's gonna speak and possibly Susan. Does anybody have anything else?
Suzanne?
I want to thank Laura. Laura's been helping us tremendously, especially with the social media work and everything she's been doing. She brought snacks for everybody tonight. And
eat them.
She's just volunteering her time. She's putting tons of hours in. She's been a great consultant on all this, and she's been helping us along. Just save the environment.
What about reading the questions that?
Oh, yes. Well, I'll read those at the end. I just want to give John an opportunity to speak to.
I was speaking throughout, so all I wanted to say to everybody is whoever goes to the meeting on Monday, and whoever you might bring along with you, that we please ask everybody to just stay with a good composure and professional, and don't, insult anybody, profanities or anything like that. It's just gonna make us look like rowdy, crazy people. You can be passionate about it. That's gonna hit, but let's just try to be
Civil.
Civil, exactly. Thank you.
Did anybody have any other questions or comments before I read these? And these are, just to be completely accurate, these are I'm just gonna aim this up there, sorry, for the audio. These are the questions that were submitted via the form that was posted, correct?
No.
Oh, these are just
No,
general,
those are questions
that the committee is
that
going
the
to,
codification committee
is going to
submitted
ask.
to the quarry.
So these aren't resident
Submitted already
questions?
to the quarry,
Okay,
and it's hopefully with the effort of getting answers.
okay.
I am not on the codification committee.
She has access to their
So how did
questions
she
though,
have
so
that?
we're
How
gonna
did you
read
have
them. We're gonna read the
Because I
questions.
asked the code for them. They don't wanna hide anything from you. I don't understand, there's no size.
It's inside information. Let's just read them. Okay, so one.
The people that are on the code, they are members of the codification committee.
But we don't even know who they are. I mean,
Yes, you do.
We do know a handful of them that were approved at the September 11th
Greg
meeting.
applied, we haven't heard anything.
But why did they hand you this when it should have been the committee that would have made these questions up?
I asked them for the
They should have
questions.
never made those questions up. The
Why?
committee,
Why?
everybody in the
Calm
12
down. We
members
don't
of the
wanna- we
committee
don't wanna-
should have formed the questions,
Take it down, take it down, take it
not
down.
5 people.
Why would they wait for after the meeting?
questions.
Okay, we have the questions. I like what this guy's saying. Guys, we got the
I
questions.
didn't have to give you the questions either, but I did.
All right. All right, so just to clarify, the codification committee is being assembled. Right now, on September 11th, they approved a handful of members. It was like 4 or 5. I don't have all of the names off the top of my head. I could think of 3, but I'm not going to throw out those 3 names without having the other ones. It is, if you're a member of the Voices of the Valley Facebook page, I believe Steve Latino, who is a board member, posted them. You can go find that thread. You can email the email address that's on the Pleasant Valley Community Network email address. I will find them and send them to you because I know I have them saved somewhere.
It's Rebecca Seaman,
If you know the names and you want to give them out, go for it.
Trish, I can't remember. her name. Thank you. Jean Curley, and Maida Plotnick.
Okay, so those are the people who have been officially appointed and.
But I think what John was
And Mike
trying to
Schroeder,
say
I'm
is,
sorry, and
it's
Mike
not a
So,
full committee yet.
it's not a full committee. There's 12 seats available. Other people, so this is again with the transparency issue. There have been people who've applied who haven't heard anything back. There are people who have applied who've been interviewed. Still, we don't know who's the next person to be filling the positions that are left on the committee. So that's left open. And again, we don't know the criteria on how anybody's being selected. So that's open. I'm just going to read these questions really quickly because I think it's to our advantage to know what questions are already being out there. And again, we can take this knowledge and go forth and do whatever we want with it. So, number one, why must you expand? Can't you just keep going deeper in the area you are currently working in? I did speak, and I will comment on this because I did speak and get some numbers. I believe I was told by somebody on the planning committee that they are at 290 and they can go to 550. I have to, it's somewhere around those. It's either 250 to 590. I think that was it. They're at 250, they can go to 590. So that was the information I was provided just since I happen to have that number. What is a quarry anyway? Why do we need it? See, some people don't know. Yeah. So is there some way to mitigate noise and dust? What exactly does conserving the property across the street mean? Will you still pay taxes on that property? How many times a day does the quarry blast? I understand this must depend on how busy they are, but maybe there is an average or something. I believe you did touch on that. Originally, they were blasting years ago at 16 times a day. Now they're past 64 for this 1 year. Are the limits on how often they blast and what time? Are there limits on how often they blast and what time of day they can blast? Do they have some sort of schedule? Can it be shared with residents? If they expand, will this affect residents' well systems? Some residents claim the vibrations wreak havoc on their well systems, causing cracks. Is there truly a traffic study somewhere? How many trucks on average come and go from the quarry in a day? What time do they start? Will the expansion cause an uptick in blasting, dust, sound, traffic, or will it just keep the business operational at normal? What are the chemical compounds in the dust, and are there any studies, OSHA, about the dust? Is the expansion removing a buffer that eases noise, dust, vibration, etc. for neighbors? Is the expansion destroying habitats, destroying anything? If allowed to expand, how soon would that expansion be? Immediately, a few years, 20 years, an estimate? If expansion is impossible, how does that affect future of Peckham? Okay, I see what they're saying, sorry. How many employees are there at the PV plant? Would no expansion mean layoffs? How much taxes does Peckham pay to PV? Economic impacts to PV? If expansion does not happen, would they still go through with the DLC acquisition, or would they consider selling that property?
I didn't finish on taxes.
Oh,
I wanted to.
is there a particular slide you want?
Somebody asked before about taxes.
Yeah.
And I gave you the, what the forestry exemption is, in the agricultural district. The DLC does allow for additional tax benefits. If you go on the site, it's Dutchess Land Conservancy, just DLC, you look at it, read it yourself. It says they have the right to go to the assessor and request a further reduction in their taxes. You can say the assessor is not going to do it, but, they could. They could hire a lawyer and go in and ask for a further reduction. There's a state tax benefits, and there's some other state refunds they get for your school and land tax. So you can answer that tax question on here, just going out to their site and just reading it. And then there was another question you had on here.
So how much do they pay in taxes?
Somebody said 35,000.
Oh, regarding employees, a lot of people have asked us about employees. Peckham is a union business, union contractor. The drivers are independent drivers. Peckham doesn't have their own trucks bringing, gravel out. They hire independent truckers to do
Actually,
that.
they do.
They do have?
I see Peckham tractor trailers coming in and out of there all day long.
Okay, so maybe it's the ones that are hauling to the other plant.
So,
Yeah.
But the people are union, and the workers that are in the plant are union. If they lost their job, they go back to the union, and there's so much work, they just send them out to another job. So it's not like they're, that's how the unions work. You work for one contractor for 11 months, 12 months, whatever. When they run out of work, they just send you out to another contractor. So, I don't see where, if they couldn't mine any longer, the processing plant's still gonna be there. And they'll just bring stone in like the other quarries do.
Bill, are they allowed to bring stone to their other quarries?
Sure.
Apparently.
Well,
Who's gonna stop them?
that could be something when they come in for, whenever the quarry comes in to get their permit renewed, the town has the authority to chime in on that and say, okay, we want to limit their hours so they don't start at 6 o'clock in the morning anymore. This quarry can operate 7 days a week. Saturdays and Sundays they can operate. Our town, we've asked them, every time the permit came due, reduce the hours. Nothing. We got no support at all on that. What else was it?
I think the town makes a recommendation after reviewing it. I believe the hours may be adjudicated by the DEC. I'm not quite sure.
No,
Okay,
they were asked,
okay.
and we asked them, and they didn't want to limit the hours.
The hours that the DEC regulate is only on the mining end of it.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Greg.
Yep.
And the ready mix company that's there is bonded, they rent that space from what we're told. Peckham doesn't do the concrete deliveries, bonded leases that portion from them. But the hours, again, 4 o'clock in the morning they start up sometimes, and they do have a clause in here, if there's a state emergency job, they can run 24 hours a day. But like Greg was saying, the only thing in the DEC permit is the hours regarding blasting and crushing and things like that, nothing to do with the processing part. Mine land reclamation, the DEC only handles the mining part of it. The processing part is out of their control. That goes to the Division of Air, for the odors, and it's not something mine land reclamation takes care of.
I'm not sure I understand, I just want more clarification. So does that affect the hours that the trucks can go in and out hauling? I mean, what part does that go in?
We fought with the town on this numerous times, and there was a lady on North Avenue that stopped the trucking because of the county road, and the trucks weren't allowed on that road until 6 a.m. Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, but according to what we just read in the town zone, 8 a.m. they can't be making noise that's over certain decibels. We all know those trucks are loud in that home by your house.
They won't do nothing. All right, now then, we'll get back to the last board meeting when, Mark Vizzioli says about the decibel machine. They were buying the machine. Was anybody there? They're buying it for $38,000? Well, I went down to the town today and to the building department. They're not buying the machine, they're renting the machine for a week. So there's a lie coming right out of the man's mouth. They're renting the machine for a week.
Blast that week.
And that's exactly,
The trucks will drive really slowly so they're not as loud.
well, this is the reason, this is what I said to them, this is what I said down at the town today. I said, here's what's gonna take place. Someone is going to tell them, because there's already a date that the machine's rented for. I said, I put my life on the line that quarry will not even open that week. I guarantee it.
That supervisor came to my house to get my vote. Who is running against him?
Which
Can
supervisor?
we get who's ever running against the Mark Fazoli?
Yeah, you got
Frank
Frank
Szynski.
Szynski.
So can we get him to
He won't
come
go.
back
He's-
on the
no,
He's
21st?
pro quarry.
Oh, he's
Phil, you should run.
Well, John,
I'm gonna run for zoning,
I want to ask Don one question, because I've made some phone calls, and Carol wrote an article on it. North Avenue, when you start getting into the hamlet, people are afraid to walk down the sidewalks. We only have sidewalk on one side of the road. It's narrow, the large trucks come up, people are just not comfortable walking that road. I've called to see if the town would consider, or the county would consider putting a weight limit on that road. Maybe that would cut down some of the sizes of the trucks.
well,
Who from the
I
county
would
legislature?
start with Bob Balkine, who's the Commissioner of Public Works. He lives right off of North Avenue on Swain Drive.
Is there
Bob
something,
Balkine.
is there something we can do to get that started and have it looked at?
I can certainly reach out to him.
Because a lot of those houses were built, so far back, they're destroying a lot of the foundations on their homes.
And that's one of your, the whole thing, one of the other constrictions you have with the development of the hamlet
Right.
is you got the creek, steep slopes, and the road. It's like being in Appalachia. You have the road, the railroad tracks, and the creek. And that's why they call them hollers, because all the water runs in there. So that's one of the, limitations that exist within that. But I can certainly reach out. I also want to reach out to, I'm gonna reach out to Owen Rafter, who's Commissioner of Planning, to see if you could somehow put a spark under the DEC. That you said that you're not getting any, but you calling over to New Paltz?
Well, they have the Mineland Reclamation set standards on what the vibration could be. But they're set out in the soil to pick up ground vibrations.
But at least
But the
get some sort of
microphone
response.
picks up the air blast.
Yeah.
That's what that microphone's for. But they've got to come up with a system to put the metering in people's homes. People here, a lot of people built on solid rock. That was the best thing. If you hit rock, you pin it and you built your foundation on rock. I was a construction manager doing the Pleasant Valley Firehouse years ago. And my office was in a sunroom in the back. I was on the phone with the structural engineer, Bill Rohde. The quarry blasted. He heard something happen because the aluminum just rattled in there. And he asked me what happened. I said, the quarry just blasted. He said, you can feel it there? I said, oh yeah. So we hit rock at a certain part of that position in that footing. He made us take that rock down and put 6 inches of compacted sand between the rock and the bottom of the footing, so we wouldn't get that vibration in a new firehouse, in the fire station on 44.
Yeah, Station 1.
Yeah, but that's what the structural engineers, because it also uneven settlement, when you're on rock and it's getting vibrated like that, so it was.
I'll be more than happy to reach out to anybody that I think that could be helpful in this endeavor.
I think the weight limit, maybe it'll cut down the size of some of these large trucks that are going through here with how many yards in there? Massive.
All right, so you want to wrap up the presentation and have a...
I'm gonna throw one more thing, and a question for OSHA. There's silica dust, there's massive, OSHA mandates about silica dust. I really don't wanna scare you, but you should probably look up silica dust, it's worse than lead for you.
Thanks.
I'm sorry to scare you.
I don't feel good right now.
But you should really look up silica dust.
I'm sorry, what's
Silica dust.
Yeah, there's massive OSHA regulation regarding silica dust, which has to do anytime with quarries and stuff.
Does anybody have anything else?
It's kind of was directed at Don. It seems that enforcement's a big problem here. How does one
From
go
my
about-
opinion,
Okay,
it
no.
seems enforcement
How
is
does
an
one
issue.
go about changing the current setup? I don't even know, Suzanne was trying to explain to me, there's part-time people that do enforcement. How does one go about changing that and having a full-time, real enforcement human being?
Our zoning officer works 10 hours a week, not by choice.
Okay,
He's only allowed to work 10 hours a week.
because that's what's established in the budget. You wanna put a
How do you
full-
change that? That's what I'm asking.
They have to adopt that, it's gonna cost money.
Okay, and
So, same thing,
how
I
do you
believe
go
the
about
building
finding out if
inspector.
there's extra money? How does one start as a group? How do we
Well,
start
when
to?
you have the public hearing on the budget, which should be coming up, I believe, you could go, you could speak to the fact, hey, town board, you should be spending more money on your code enforcement officer.
To make more money.
Right, so then what will happen is, of course, it takes money, it will have an effect on your tax rate.
It either just happened or it just passed. I know that there was a budget meeting. Is it tomorrow night? I knew it was, they just had
There's a whole
they
process
adopted,
that
yeah.
happens with the adoption of funds.
I know it's soon then.
Yes, it's
So,
gotta be adopted by.
check the town board
It's
website.
gotta be adopted and finalized by, I believe, by December 1st.
Okay.
So there's still time within that process of.
I will
getting-
throw something else in to advocate if you are going to that budget meeting. I talked to the town clerk and I was trying to get to the bottom as to why the town website wasn't being updated. And I sympathize with her because I do sort of the same job in communications, and she's the role of the town clerk. She is also their website content manager. She deals with all the foils. She deals with all the phone calls. She's a secretary. She's dealing with a lot, and they cut her full-time person. So she only has she has 2 part-time support people, but one's not allowed to supplement the other, she was explaining. So I think that as residents, again, if we want something fixed, we need to advocate for the budgeting to fix it. So if you could go and support the town clerk assistants that help with those responsibilities, yeah.
To be requested to make the deputy town clerk into a full-time position. Okay.
But there's just a little,
But there's a cost to that. And
Again.
the only way the town can pay for that cost is to either increase service fees. So you can go, if you go to the transfer station, it's gonna take you $10 for a bag of garbage, or to increase taxes. What? Yeah. It's an unhappy medium, as we all know.
I'd like to say one more thing about the quarry. I'm really looking at it where they do want the expansion, because a lot of their other quarries that no one knows about are shut down, and this is the reason why the material's hauled out of there. It's hauled to their other plants because people like us shut their other plants down. And this is what we have to do. Enough's enough. Like I said, our main case is our water supply. And you can blast the ground how many times? I did dynamite all down through Beacon, along the river, and for townhouses and stuff. I know all about it when it comes to that. But what's gonna take place is, they're gonna be like, oh, something happened to the aquifer. They polluted the aquifer. Guess what?
We're screwed.
Do you know how far that will damage the water system? And this town is just, and the DEC is just letting them go ahead and do it. What would you get for your house if you didn't have water? How much is your house worth? You might as well just walk away from it. Because you're not gonna sell it without water. And this is my whole point on it. It comes down to the water. And that's my beef on it. Water. And the dust. Breathing in that dust in. I lived on my place for 20 years and haven't been able to open my windows any day of the week except Sunday. And then if you open it on Sunday, the dust will blow in because it's sitting on the outside of the sills.
Yeah, we get it from the road, we don't
Oh,
ever
yeah.
open the
You
front
can't.
windows.
You can't.
because of the-
Getting back to water, I
Yes.
don't know if any of you weren't at the last meeting. The last meeting, October 9th, I think it was, Riverkeeper was there and also Trout Unlimited. And they're concerned about our water quality. And that's all they would say at this point.
You can
And
see
they-
the silica floating on the creek all summer.
Really?
You can see it, it's
Well,
just.
they have concerns about something. And
Good to
the best thing to do is come to the meeting Monday, have your questions prepared, and hopefully we'll make, people will listen.
I have a question. Does anyone here know how many minutes that meeting will be allotted on Monday? No.
I was told from the clerk that it's gonna be 3 minutes again, like the last meeting.
No, the time frame.
The time frame, it starts at 6. 6 to 8?
Is it? Okay.
Okay.
It starts at 6.
Okay.
Yep.
Make sure everybody knows.
6,
that.
all right, so 6
Oh,
o'clock,
6.
October 21st, it's next Monday
6
at the
o'clock.
Pleasant Valley Town Hall. Tell your friends.
Yeah.
And on that note,
We're getting back to the meeting minutes. I got a call from the town clerk about a week ago saying they were gonna be on right after that meeting, or before that meeting, the audio for August and September. Then she called me back and said she needed the town board's approval before she could put it online. Then she said it would be on Thursday, the day after the meeting, but then she told me that the town board at that meeting did not vote to release the meeting minutes, so the audio's still not online.
And Steve
You
Lucino
might wanna call and,
the town board encouraged the town clerk to get the meetings on the web, so.
and they stopped her, they said, they need to vote on it. And
Of course,
they, Don, any input on that?
I don't recall the town law on that. Generally, there's an approval process. I believe that may be one of the issues with planning board minutes not out there, or zoning board minutes. Generally, as I recall, you had to approve the minutes before they can be posted. But I don't think that that still exists these days because, you know, the freedom of information and open government. Many meetings are broadcast.
I think that you can publish them as a draft if you
Oh,
label them.
okay.
I'm not 110% sure. Again, I have to look into that, but I believe that you can as long as you label
I'm
them.
pretty sure that is, because the county minutes are
The Department of
published.
State, I put it on the Facebook page today, the Department of State has a certain thing on there. Legally, they have to put it on in 2 weeks
Yep.
because of the Freedom of Information law. So that's.
She was gonna put the audio on, so you could listen to the
Well,
whole
you know,
entire
that's
meeting.
fine, you know,
You know,
so.
just to get it started, but they wouldn't let her do that either.
Can I wrap this? Guys, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. I'm going to wrap this up just for the filming purpose for the posting, but you are welcome to stay. We have the room until 9 o'clock if you want to enjoy some snacks in the back, have a conversation, sign up for our mailing list. We have some more flyers if you want to take some flyers to let people know about the 21st. Thank you for coming.